How are you, Gerard? Now, a great interview with Nathan Jones, and he would never say it, but I've thought about this a fair bit since their premiership win. And we'll see, even during that year, made comment around the fact I would play Nathan Jones from about round 22 onwards. So it's not just for a grand final if they were to make it as the sub. And it still surprises me and amazes me that Melbourne didn't go down that track to give the opportunity. And he was playing reasonable football in the reserves. It wasn't as if he was just going to be handed it. He was doing the grind. Played Nathan Jones as the sub throughout that last period of the season to give him a chance to play in a premiership.
I must admit I was amazed, Jono, I've got to say. Disappointed and amazed. But I spoke to Jonesy about it at one stage. And
by the way, he handled it unbelievably well.
Yeah, he did. He was a star, no question about that. But I don't think he would have taken the offer if it was given to him just on grand final day.
And I could understand that completely. That's why you'd think that if they were going to make that move, you had to make it with a couple of rounds to go and see if he had to play 3/4, he could play a decent role. If he had to play a half, what that looked like. So for a big final series, if there was an early injury, that you weren't going to lose out with Nathan Jones coming onto the field, which I don't think you would have anyway.
I know it was a big day and everybody's it's a historic premiership, but I was also surprised that James Jordan didn't get on the ground as well. Particularly when May ran to the bench and got a hammy.
That's it. Which is it's been an interesting discussion around the whole.
Where are you?
Oh no, I'm medals. I'm no for no ring. On grand final.
No for no rings.
No for no rings.
No, you're a yes for no rings.
I'm a yes for no rings on grand final day.
And what about medals for players who are in the squad?
No, I'm for the club celebrating everyone involved in that year because it's a full investment. We
Doctors,
all know that
physios,
everybody that has given up so much of their life for the club to achieve the ultimate, that has to be rewarded and recognised in some form, not just verbally. I mean something material that they can hold on to for the rest of their lives.
I go around to Jake Landsberger's place on the odd occasion, and he's just so proud of his involvement in the Dogs Premiership. There's photos, and I'm not sure if he's got anything tangible. Did you get something from the Dogs? Oh, no, it wasn't you, sorry. But
that wouldn't have been me.
Would the Dogs did they give out something to...
Honestly, I'm not too sure on that one. You'd think that, I liked the way Hodgie spoke today around the watches. I think that's pretty
good. In fact, Jordan Lewis just texted me and said that's what they did. They all put in and got a Breitling watch as a memento.
So maybe it's a bit of a combo. Maybe the AFL, if they want to be a part of that, can put a little bit in to help the club. The players obviously did for the 2022. I'm not sure whether it extended past 22 for the watches, but I still think it's a massive investment by so many people within the club environment that the whole club in some way should celebrate that. And that's the way that I see it. I don't see it changing on grand final day from the medallion.
And we have put out an APB on Peter Moore's runners-up medal that he threw into the crowd. If anybody knows where that is,
we'll laugh.
Can you send it in?
We'll laugh him before as well. Imagine if they had rings, right, and you got Dermy walking around with 5 day, 5 night. What that looks like on the
knuckle dusters.
Jono, a bit later on, Ash Brown's going to join us, as he always does. I'm led to believe there's some extraordinary commentary from Gerard, like Nostradamus-type stuff, predicting the Dacos goal. So if you're wondering, listen after 7 o'clock. I haven't heard it yet, but I look forward to the insights.
Doesn't surprise me that Gerard Whateley would get this.
No, it's the man sitting opposite you. I think it's so honestly, Nostradamus sitting next to you will hear that after 7 o'clock.
And Cornsey, you know what else? I found out today that Gerard and I have actually got something in common. We both kicked 8 in a game. I found that out today.
Did you do it twice though?
No, that's the thing. Just once. I can't believe that.
Move on.
Anyway, I know Gerard wants to, but we love pumping you up when we can, Gerard.
Himself, but we had to tonight. Blazing Ben's a good friend of mine. Listen to the program. He just really wants to ask you about Ugo Hagen's kicking in that game, Jono.
What do you want to ask about?
Well, I want to ask you via a friend of mine who's a big fan of yours and our show. Now, you're probably going to say he knows exactly why he missed. And that has been your get out as we've asked you some tricky questions.
It's true. No,
what did he do wrong?
Well, he did a lot. He rushed number one. Yeah, that was number one. He just needed to take the full 30 and settle himself because obviously he was thinking, I haven't spoken to Jamari yet, but he was you could sort of trying to read his approach to it all. I've got to get this. I've got to kick this quickly so we get a chance to win the game, not just obviously take your full time, take 30 more seconds off the clock, set yourself properly to kick it. And the most important thing was to kick the goal in that in that scenario. So yeah, it was we worked a lot, and we continue to work on minimising the disasters. That was one that was no good. So it just goes to show that you do a lot of work and continue to do the work with these young players in the competition, and I've got full confidence that it will turn along the way. I've been there. I've missed important goals. You kick important ones. You've missed them along the way as well. So you can't shy away from wanting the ball in your hands. That's my biggest thing, Cornsey, with all of this, regardless. And I'm sure he'll front up again and put himself in the same position.
Dogs had an off-site trying to deal with the off-field dramas, allegedly off-field stuff, Jono, and trying to get themselves back on track. Where are you sitting now with the Dogs?
Well, the disappointing thing for me is the losses to teams over the last 6 months, end of last year and this year, that have been, the expectation has been to win and win comfortably. Now, the Bulldogs play the Hawks twice in the pre-season, and Hawks couldn't get near them. And the first one I can understand. The second one was a full-blown practice game leading into the start of the home and away season. 8 weeks later, they show with, once again, a desire to want to work and outwork the Bulldogs, that they can't handle the opposition doing that. So there's been 3 games this year for the Bulldogs where they've been completely outworked. One was against Melbourne in their first game of the year. Second one was against the Bombers, where they beat them quite easily in terms of work rate. We spoke about that. And then this one on the weekend, where they started relaxed and Hawthorn just completely outworked them contest to contest throughout that game. The other 2 losses the Bulldogs have had against the Cats, competitive game. Everyone enjoyed that game. They were right in it till the very end. And the second one against Freo away, which was still a pretty good contest.
Why the variance, John? Because they couldn't have got better leadership. Norton played a pretty good game, and the Bont played an unbelievable game.
That's right. But that's where it sort of lies, doesn't it? It has lied for some time. So the reality around their list, and I heard Matty Egan today talking around, they've got 8 players under 50 games and all that in their lineup.
Melbourne got about 6 under 10 games.
So have a lot of clubs in that scenario, but they still doesn't shy away from the work rate ability of those players that are representing week in, week out. The list of the Bulldogs is reasonably healthy. Yes, some top-end players are missing, but overall, they're pretty healthy in terms of where they sit at this particular point.
There's a couple of players in the game you watch and you have a concern over, like you hold your breath as they go to a contest. Got to say, Libba's probably turned into that for me, like because he burrows the head in the way that he plays, you all admire, but you just hope after the contest he gets up and he doesn't stumble, and he's so tough that he can't help himself. Jono, what's your feeling about his current predicament and where his career sits?
Yeah, he's just got to take a lot of time now. I think that's where it sits for Libba with what's happened, and the history has now come out, which I was unaware of. Now reading the concussion history, and in particular a couple of weeks ago against the Bombers, and now this particular one last weekend. So I know the club will take a fair bit of time here, and I know that it probably is looking at 4 weeks as a potential start point, and then from there you start to assess when and if a comeback may occur, but don't expect too much over the next couple of weeks, because that's certainly not going to happen. I think regardless of how well even Libba may feel, some time will be taken here just to settle things down, reshape, and hopefully he comes out the other side and he can get back to playing some great footy in Bulldogs colours. What do you make of the quality of football at the moment? Oh, the footy at the moment, it's starting to eat away at me a little bit, Gerard and Cornsey, in regards to just the negative style that the coaches are starting to implement again. And 2 games I watched last weekend, and even the one at the MCG, Fremantle v Richmond, with 34 players in one part of the ground again. Now, I know this was something that sort of itched into the game a few years ago, and a bit of adjustment was made off the back of it. But it's starting to creep in again, and to even hear, and we'll listen to Christian Petrarca in a moment, but getting interviewed at halftime with Cameron Ling, and he's talking about the Melbourne way. We'll have a listen now.
It's going to be a bit more calm around when we get the turnovers. I think we're creating a lot of turnovers defensively. That's what we pride our game on, but probably a bit more offense just be a bit more calm with it. But it's a Melbourne game, like it's where we play. So probably similar to last week, where defensively we're looking really sharp.
It's a Melbourne game. They didn't score in the second quarter. I'm not sure we want the Melbourne way to be. We don't score in the second quarter. And Melbourne are a great test, a great assessment on this as well, guys, because rounds 2, 3 and 4, they had 3 wins and they scored 93 plus points in those 3 wins. Their last 4 games, they're 3-1, so they're still winning, but they sit at an average of 74 points where they've gone 78, 60, 85 and 74.
Is that them or is it the opposition?
Well, it could be a combination there, of course, but I think they've had a more listening to Christian Petrarca.
Yeah, it's the Melbourne way.
The Melbourne way over the last little period of time has been a more defensive approach to their football. So, what do Melbourne fans want to see? Yes, I know they want to see the W at the end of the day, but what style are you going to watch? Are you going to watch an early part of the season, 93 plus points, or are you going to watch this type of football where it's a bit more dour and you're not scoring against
well, Robbo
against
mentioned
the
this in the
opposition?
Herald Sun on Monday post the round, essentially saying it's a sleeper at the present time. There's some good games.
I kind of agree with that.
Whatever you want to describe a good game at, but there's also these periods where you get no scoring and it's almost like the flood is back, except it's a forward flood and it's a press and you just can't get the ball out of there.
It's starting to get back again to teams releasing off half back and having to stop. Now, that's my biggest frustration in the game. If you release with speed off half back, you should be looking to score, not having to stop because you've got no representation forward of the football.
So we're getting back to these same old arguments, Kane and Jono and listeners. Do we need to restrict people and keep them in zones, which I know Mark Evans was always half for, but he could never find a rule or a way to implement it which would be satisfactory for umpiring.
The only thing that, well, not the only thing, there's a few things that worry me about that, and actually 6, 6 and 6 worries me a little bit, is you're restrictive of coaching genius and coaching nous. Like what we used to get when we didn't have 6, 6 and 6 was half forwards coming off the back of the square. Phil Walsh used to call it his weapon. With Eddie Betts, you could roll around a wing and a half forward could come up. So you are restricting the ability of coaches strategically to make those moves. That's what 6, 6,
but
6
most of
done.
the genius went into defence, Kane.
Yeah,
and it just slowed the game down, and it was immovable at various stages.
So if you made it zones, how much are you putting the handbrake on coaching? Because we're still getting this defensive stuff that Jono's talking about right now. Regardless, the coaches are always going to focus on that.
Can't the genius be focused on coming up with the best system to utilise that if in fact they could work out a way of implementing it?
Well, I speak about Chris Scott often, but I love what he's done this year with his half forward. Like the way that his half forwards play, he's clearly worried about his ruck and his on ball brigade.
Yep.
So how do you?
But they always have representatives forward
correct.
of the ball.
So how do you protect against that? While what you've done with your 40 keeps Hawkins deep. You don't see Tom Hawkins coming up like some of the other high half forwards do. He's always inside 30 really as that target and something to kick to and reference. And then he rolls around his intercepting defenders, so it's not just always one player. We see Guthrie take 6, so everyone thinks Tom Stewart, but it's not. You got Henry and you got so what he has done, I love that.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be too restrictive of coaches, Jono. But
that's a fair point.
Yeah,
But I don't want to be at 60 for the loser and 75 for the winner.
Yeah, I know.
Either Cornsey.
I'm with you.
And that's what we're starting to see over the last couple of weeks.
Well, in good conditions and no one scores in a quarter.
Yeah.
It's unheard of.
What's
That's
the
right.
biggest bag we've had, Jono? Is 6 the biggest we've had as a forward? I
think it is.
No one's kicked 7 yet, have they? That's we're round 9.
Well, we had a couple last year, but they were
did
mainly against the West Coast Eagles. Yeah. If you took them out, we're probably back to the 6.
That's right.
Yeah, so I mean that's
not many.
That's an issue, isn't it? Like in itself, 6 is happening as the top end of bags of goals. The Rising Star race is starting to. I mean, we're getting more information now. I'm happy to start talking about this. Sometimes we start talking about this sort of stuff around 1 or 2, All Australian and all that, but ridiculous. Now we've got some data and some games on the board. Who do you like?
Well, the winner normally pushes forward out of this out of the first 8 weeks, because then they have a big second half of the season. Everyone gets excited about their year and away they go. So there's a number of players in the running at the moment.
I thought it was
which
already
is
given to a friend
Harley
over in the West.
Harley Reid.
After the training regime that Kane's got him doing, he's
look
going to be
out.
unstoppable.
Watch.
Look out. He'll be on the Adelaide Crows. What were they? 1K time trials during the season back in the 90s, or the bike riding that was happening. But
Charlie Walsh.
Yeah, that's it exactly. So when you look across the players that have been nominated so far, so Matt Roberts was from the Sydney Swans.
Yep.
He was in round 0. But throughout the first 8 rounds, he's averaged 19.4 disposals, 6 marks, and 2.5 tackles a game. So his consistency over the 8 weeks is something that no one is talking about. I think everyone thought, well, yeah, Matt Roberts, great first game, but that's it. You're out of the discussion. Ollie Dempsey at the Cats, big game in round 1. He's probably one that has been reasonably consistent with 15.6, 4.1, 2.9. But I
Very
think
good. Some of his highlights, good package.
They are, but I think he's had a couple of games that are a bit flatter. George Wardlaw at North Melbourne, who I know you absolutely love, Gerard, with his 17.4 disposals, 3.6 marks, 4.3 tackles. So I've done it in that way.
Had a couple of flat ones, but his good ones are really good.
This is the thing, as they all have.
Yeah.
So Harvey Gallagher at the Dogs, he's had his one awesome game. He's probably been a bit lower than the couple that we've mentioned so far in output. Same with Sam Darcy, who had his marking games are excellent, and he probably needs to get himself into 30 plus goals if he's a realistic chance of winning the Rising Star this year. Then you've got Harley Reid, who had a patch of 3 weeks that were unbelievable, but he's also had 3 or 4 that are
not so unbelievable
as a build.
Yeah.
So then you got Darcy Wilson from the Saints, who's been reasonably good. As his last couple of weeks have been excellent. Jake Rogers from the Gold Coast Suns. I don't think we'll win it, but he looks dynamic and dangerous. And then Caleb Windsor from the D's,
very consistent.
This is the thing. His numbers aren't as strong, but consistently across every game, he hasn't had a flat one. He's been just the same all the way along. So
is it peaks and troughs versus
it is at the
consistency?
moment. So what will be the separator for what is going to be the separator for these players that we've just mentioned for the back half of the home and away?
But you're a panelist, Kane, so
am.
you can't give us, but give us your principles.
Yeah, well,
is it the heights a player gets to? Obviously, with a level of consistency.
It's the hype that comes with them as well. What the media throw around some of these guys. You know, Glenn Jakovic will vote for Harley Reid because on the front page of the WA paper every week.
Yeah, who had the most outstanding season is sort of the framework that you go with. But, I mean, that can encompass anything. Like, I do have a preference for the key position players because I just think we are so heavily swayed by midfield across the board. Like, I loved Owen's year last year and I loved Amos's year last year. Now, I gave Harry Sheasel the full votes because I just thought he was the most outstanding and consistent player in that category. But, gee, I loved Amos and I would have been not upset for 1 minute
What
if
would you
won.
do then?
Yep.
Would you rate the season so far of Wardlaw and Reid in the bottom 2 teams better than Roberts and Windsor in the top couple of teams and holding their spot?
Yeah, I don't want to go into too much, but I love Windsor's season. And if you speak to Champion Data about ranking them against those that play in a similar position, that's what they've done pretty well. So if you ranked him against the other wingmen, I'm sure he stacks up. Yet you just look at his disposals, it won't stack up. But look, Wardlaw, for me, there's something intangible about the way he leads for that footy club and the way that he just gives absolutely everything. So I'm not going to give you an answer, but
No,
there's
you can't. Gerard can, though.
I'm with you, Jono, that, and I love Darcy. Like, I think Sam Darcy's just going to be extraordinary. Is he going to do enough to get himself over the line? I'm probably with you, considering Amos kicked 41 last year and couldn't win it. So that's a good point. That's a really good point. Pretty high bar to set. But
you still can't deny the impact that Harley Reid has had on that footy club. I mean,
definitely.
it is extraordinary. We've never seen anything like it.
Agree with that. But once again, the hype factor and the media attention, I think that will sway a few votes as well.
Yep, definitely. So it'll be interesting.
If you have to pick one right now, Jono, who would you pick?
If I had to pick one.
Give me the podium.
Right now.
Give me your 3, 2 and 1.
I would go Windsor, Reid and Roberts.
Roberts.
Yep.
Okay.
North Melbourne
That'd be my
fans are
3.
about to text in, Jono, like they
They
do
are.
with Zach
his
Merritt
second
from
year,
the Bombers.
Roberts.
Yeah, that's okay though.
Yeah.
That's he still falls into the parameters of the system, so that's just
Third
the
year,
way
actually,
that it is.
Roberts, yeah.
If you
That's just
are
the way it rolls.
having a bet on the Rising Star, remember to gamble responsibly. Harley Reid is the $1.30 favourite at the moment for the rising star. But remember, what are you really gambling with? All right, Jono, who's taking your attention with
All right.
kicking a goal for your
Now,
life?
We spoke. You asked me this many weeks ago, and I said Tim English would I'd have as my at
Put
the
the moz on
Bulldogs.
him?
I've changed that to Cody Waitman now, but I just wanted to run by you a couple of different scenarios, depending on where the ball is on the ground, who you want kicking from these particular positions. Because we say, who do you want kicking for your life? Well, there's different positions and there's different players, I think, that fall into these categories. So a player having a set shot from the boundary, who do you want? A set shot from the boundary line. Who's the player?
I'm taking Ginnivan.
Oh,
He's excellent.
Okay.
He's excellent from the boundary
I'm going Billy Elliott.
I'm the same as you. I had Jamie Elliott written down for that one from the boundary line. So
Good question, though.
all right. So a shot from inside 40.
I'm going
From the-
Bailey,
from the 45s.
Bailey Fritz.
Yeah.
One of the great shots at goal in the comp, I reckon.
I'm going to take Tom Hawkins.
I'm going to take Nick Larkey.
Yep.
Oh, good. Yeah,
Right,
I'm
set-
jealous of yours. Can I go back on that? I'm jealous of that. I'm taking Nick Larky as well.
Okay. A set shot between 40 and 50.
I'm going to go Tex.
Got me there.
Tex Walker.
I had Tex as well, 40 to 50.
Kane, spit it out.
I'm going to go Darcy Fogarty.
Okay.
Okay. What about from outside 50?
Now I'm taking Tex.
You'll laugh at mine.
Going
I'm taking
Tex.
Tex now.
I've got Max Gordon.
Big Max, yeah. Well,
He
he's got
doesn't
form.
miss Kane.
He's got
Recency bias there, Jono.
He doesn't miss.
Recency
No,
bias.
no. Yeah, over the last 12 months, absolutely. Max Gorn does not miss from outside 50.
He went back with great confidence last week, didn't he?
He's the best.
Unbelievable.
Who would you have from outside 50?
I think
Darren?
I'm jumping on your wagon. You've convinced me. Go,
Yep.
Max.
2
There you
metre
go.
Peter. 2 metre Peter
All right.
getting some love off the text as well.
Yeah, he's a good shot.
He's a good shot at goal. And the most important one of the most important on the run, breaking 50. Who do you want kicking that goal?
Craig Bradley.
Nick Dacos.
Oh, good one. I had Chad Warner from the Swannies.
Interesting.
Or Errol Goulden.
Errol Goulden for me.
Errol Goulden.
Yeah, for the modern day right
You know
now.
who's underrated, and he's injured a lot, so he won't be the top of your mind, but Jack Graham from Richmond. Never misses on the run
misses.
inside 40. Richmond fans will know exactly what
Big
I'm talking
grand final
about.
from what
He
wasn't it?
is as reliable as anyone I've ever seen. Like, Gary Ablett's the best I've ever seen on the run.
Yep.
And just he was just unbelievable, Gary. But
Explode and control.
if
It
inside
is
40,
phenomenal.
Jack Greg, send us a text, all right? 0433901169. I love that, Jono. That is an excellent topic.